Special meeting number 1 in the Thomas J. Smith Council Chambers at 4:30 on January 23rd. Could we have a roll call?
McCampbell?
Here.
Reed?
Here.
Anderson? Here. Davidson?
Here.
Fleming?
Here.
We have one item of business on this special meeting, and that's to deal with the Des Moines County Pre-Disaster Mitigation Plan. And, okay, Bob, I think you have the
Your Honor, I have a resolution approving the Des Moines County Pre-Disaster Mitigation Plan for the City of Burlington, Des Moines County, Iowa, under the provisions of the Robert T. Stafford Disaster Relief and Emergency Assistance Act as amended by the Disaster Mitigation Act of 2000.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. Dan, what would you want to?
If you have any questions about it, Eric's here to answer any, and I can answer any.
Okay. Eric, do you want to come up
Give
and
a brief overview on why we're
tell us a little bit about why we have this meeting? And
this plan is, I guess, a requirement for the city of Burlington to be eligible for certain hazard mitigation plan grant funds. It was approved by FEMA in January of 2011, and it was approved by the county in West Burlington, various communities in Des Moines County over the past year. I guess we weren't notified that we hadn't approved it yet, and I guess I don't know if there's some lack of communication there or whatnot, but we haven't approved it yet and need to by January 28th of this year to be eligible for grant funds over the next 4 years. The process was about a 6 month to 9 month process of update by the Regional Planning Commission, and there were 10 to 12 public meetings during that time, so it was an open process of creating the plan, but we just haven't formally adopted it. And the plan doesn't set out specific projects. It lays the groundwork for if there is a flood, then you need to look at projects. It doesn't say you have to do this or that, but it makes it projects eligible, so it's not a specific plan that it's not going to say the depot needs a retaining wall here or this or needs something else there, but it makes those projects eligible for funding if there is a hazard. So
okay.
It's more of a general plan. It pretty much follows the FEMA guidelines for how it's supposed to be structured and how it's set up. So it's something we have to adopt to become eligible for those funds.
This is a local plan.
It's a Des Moines County plan that all the communities in Des Moines County are part of, Mediapolis, Burlington, West Burlington School District.
I saw a couple of them that had, who was going to do it, it said Danville, and so they've got
there's one plan for the county and managed by emergency management with the county, but all the communities kind of a cross-jurisdictional plan.
Okay.
So,
You have any questions, Mary?
What are the other requirements to, the basic requirements of this money? I mean, just basically signing up for it?
what are the requirements of what?
Of getting access to this money?
If there's a declaration of a disaster, then we're eligible for funding as long as we have this plan adopted.
And what type of disaster does that cover?
Like the flood of 2008, if there's a tornado disaster, any disaster that's specified by FEMA, we'd be eligible for funding.
Do you know if there's anything about there with like Homeland Security disaster?
Yep. Terrorist disasters, any type of natural or non-natural disaster would be eligible for funding. That's one thing that, we're close to the river with major cross points for the railroad. We're close to the ammunition plant, so those are identified as potential hazards as well.
It looks to me like they tried to cover just about every possible.
Yeah, and we went through over that period, and they have a list of probably 30 hazards, and we went through and kind of stated what are the hazards that are applicable to this community. Flooding isn't highest on the list. We're more likely to have a tornado or a windstorm or a snowstorm, and they're all listed on there. So it covers any type of rain, snow, wind. A spill, truck spills on Highway 34, and has some hazardous material, and everything basically is covered under this plan. It's not a detailed plan. It's just generally these are the hazards.
So you're saying if we don't pass it, then we aren't in line for any
Wouldn't
grant?
be eligible for funding. And if we do pass it, we're not required to do any project or anything. It's just if we want to do a project, then we're eligible for funding.
But it is for also some mitigating projects if we decided to do something like that?
Yeah, it could be.
Mm-hmm.
But it doesn't tie us to spending any money, it doesn't tie us to anything. So it's just a plan that's adopted, and if there's a project or if there's a hazard, then we're eligible to apply then.
Okay. Anything else, council? For a non-specific plan, it sure took up a lot of pages, didn't it?
Yes, it did.
Not specific.
And I think part of that's because there are so many communities involved in
Yeah.
this, so.
Yeah, okay, thank you, Eric. Does anyone from the audience have comments about this issue? Seeing none, council? Ready for the vote? Okay, Kathleen?
McCampbell,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Anderson,
Aye.
Davidson,
Aye.
Fleming.
Aye.
Thank you, the motion is carried. Do we have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second.
I third. I know you don't need one, but I just.
McCampbell,
Aye.
Reed,
Aye.
Anderson,
Aye.
Davidson,
Aye?
Fleming.
Aye.
Okay, thank you, folks. We are adjourned.
Okay.
Now we can move